It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected. It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
Alex Blow won IndyCar. He confirmed that. Let's go to Nate Ryan, who was there to witness that live in Nashville. Hello, Nate, again.
Hey, Martin. How are you?
Well, is he a worthy winner of the title this year, Alex Blow?
He absolutely is. I mean, he's been the most dominant driver in IndyCar, really, since he went to Chip Ganassi Racing in 2021. So this is his third title in 4 seasons, and the only thing he hasn't done yet is win on an oval. But other than that, Martin, it's probably just a matter of time. Well, I mean, he won the Indy 500 pole position. He's just so talented. He's so accomplished. He's so cool under pressure. Nothing gets to this guy. And he definitely earned the title this year over Will Power and a host of other championship contenders.
Yeah, when you say he earned it, why was he so much better?
He's just consistent. He doesn't make mistakes. Unfortunately, Will Power made a huge mistake at Milwaukee when Palou had a mechanical problem. That was the window that Will Power needed to open for him to have a shot at the title. That was 2 weeks ago. And Will Power spun in that same race and essentially threw away the championship. And Alex Palou just never makes those mistakes. Even though he's only in his 5th season in IndyCar, he just has this incredible ability to be very, very precise, and nothing rattles him. Yeah, the pressure just does not get to this kid who, at 27 years old, is now the youngest 3-time champion in IndyCar history. And he joins a list of drivers who have won 3 IndyCar championships. That includes AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti, Rick Mears. It's a long list. It's an illustrious list. Scott Dixon, of course, his teammate at Ganassi, the Kiwi that you guys know so well. He's really putting himself in the list of legends already, just 5 seasons into being an IndyCar driver.
When you say he hasn't won on an oval, how important is that?
Well, I guess not so important when you consider he's won 3 championships now without it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's partly due to the fact, though, Martin, that there haven't been as many oval races on the IndyCar calendar. Now, that changed this year. There were 7 oval races on the 17-race IndyCar calendar this year. There's going to be that many next year. The first 2 championships, I think there were 3 or 4 oval races both of those years. So it wasn't as big of a deal, but he's gotten a lot better on ovals as well. I mean, he's a Spaniard. He's the first Spaniard to ever win an IndyCar title. So he grew up in Europe. He grew up on road course, street course backgrounds. He had 0 oval experience when he came to IndyCar. But like everything, he's acquitted himself really, really well, just the way that guys like Scott Dixon and Will Power, 2 guys who have won the Indy 500 and came from your part of the world. Scott McLaughlin, who won the pole position for the Indy 500 this year. If you're a talented driver, you will figure ovals out eventually. And Palou has shown he's doing that. And it's only a matter of time. I can almost guarantee he's going to win a race on an oval next year.
Before we get to talk about NASCAR and Shane van Gisbergen over the weekend and coming second in the Cup race today, just the Kiwis in IndyCar. McLaughlin 3rd in the standings. That's a 4th, a 3rd, and a 3rd. So he's been consistent through his 3 years full-time on this. Where do you see him?
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to him, Martin, on Friday here in Nashville ahead of the race. And, Scotty Mack definitely considers this to be his best season yet in IndyCar, even though, like you mentioned, I mean, he's finished 3rd in the points before. He's won 3 races before. But he showed that consistency a little bit more this year. He won on an oval for the first time, as we're talking about Alex Palou on ovals. And Scotty Mack showed he could do that this year at Milwaukee, at Iowa. He was on the pole position for the Indy 500. So, again, I think it's only a matter of time for Scotty Mack. It could be as soon as next year that he was the highest finishing Penske driver this year, ahead of Will Power, ahead of Joseph Newgarden, 2 drivers that are Indy 500 winners and IndyCar champions. I think now it's only a matter of time with Scott McLaughlin driving for Team Penske, which is widely considered not just the best team in the history of IndyCar, but one of the best teams in the history of motorsports in general. It's only a matter of time for him to win a championship.
Devlin.
Have you seen my wiener?
The Platform.
Eric, Sandown yesterday, absolutely brilliant race, I thought. And, the safety cars make it spectacular, don't they? And in the end, you picked it exactly right. You said that it would be Brown and Pye, and it was.
Yeah, I know. It's always a bit of a gamble, especially on Saturday, Marty, when it was raining. And there was a bit of chaos and carnage on that. And then it sort of Sunday dawned nice and bright. But it was an absolutely cracking race. Quite difficult to follow who was going to sit where, and it wasn't until about halfway through the 160-odd laps that it sort of settled into the two Red Bull cars, and I mean that was an ongoing battle with Pye and Brown and Feeney and Whincup. But I always sort of thought with Scott Pye in with Will Brown, Scott Pye's got a bit of a pedigree. It's only his first year out of a full-time drive. So he still knew what those cars were all about. And Will Brown's quick. But pretty impressive with the old stages, Marty. Whincup finishing second, and I think Lowndes, Craig Lowndes, who hasn't been in the car for a while, finished, I think, fifth.
Yeah.
His co-driver. I mean, if I was some of the young guys, mate, I'd be scratching my head going, how come my dad can still give me a bit of a kicking?
The strategies around this race are fascinating to watch, aren't they? And it gives us a little insight into what might be happening at Bathurst as well. But I like the way that they have it now so that you actually have to have your A-team driver leading out. And I think the reasoning behind that is good because, as like I was saying yesterday, you go along to see the Rolling Stones, you want Jagger up front right from the moment that the first guitar riff is licked. And then you've got to pack in your co-driver into how many laps that he does as well. Fit it all around your tyre strategies and then your fuel pit stops. And then, as I say, you throw your safety cars in there. It's a cracking track, that track, isn't it? I love the fact that there's so much that happens on it.
Oh, it's an absolutely brilliant track, Marty. It's a bit like Pukekohe, but in the reverse direction. Because Pukekohe is clockwise and Sandown's anti-clockwise. But it's inside of it's a horse racing venue, a bit like Pukekohe is. Quite flat. Quite old school and very, very fast. I mean, some of those sections are really fast. But again, just touching on what you said about the co-drivers starting second, shall we say, I think part of that is also to actually, because in the past, when a lot of the co-drivers have started the race, they have the old berserker rage and the red mist has descended. They've gone, I've got to prove a point, I'm going to go really fast. And they've caused some pretty massive pile-ups in the past. So I think people wanted the race to be started, good racing, close racing, but with people that are used to racing against each other at the start of the race.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, impressive from all the co-drivers. But ultimately, in the end, why did you decide that it was going to be those guys that were going to win it and you proved right?
Well, both Feeney and Brown have been consistent. Well, Will Brown's leading the championship. I think Feeney's in third. And so, you sort of knew that they've got the car. Those two young guys have got the pace. And with, a lot of people said, Whincup said he was a bit rusty to start with in practice, but it doesn't take somebody, like all the championships he's won. You don't lose how to drive those cars overnight. Or how to drive a car overnight. And Lowndes has been doing a lot of stuff in other cars, for him to come along. But with Scott Pye, especially with Brown, Pye has a really great pedigree. And the reason he's never really challenged for a championship in the past when he was a full-time driver, Marty, was he was never in a really good car with a really good team that had it all together. So I thought with him in a Triple 8 car alongside Will Brown, as long as they didn't get punted off, to me, it just made sense that they'd be challenged, if not winning it. And also with Feeney and Whincup, they were always going to be there and thereabouts.
What does it mean for Bathurst then, mate?
Oh, now that's going to be really interesting, Bathurst, because a completely different track. Some of the co-drivers will be, there'll be some of them that sort of fired off a bit, and the old berserker rage a couple of times came into play, so they'll be told to sit down and actually be a bit careful and to think it through. And the main game guys are all, they all love Bathurst is really great. And as you know, Marty, that race always always throws up something different.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.